We're live. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Medium happy Friday.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
It is Cinco de Mayo. Somebody's celebrating somewhere. Welcome to episode 29 of Double D-Fense. We have decided that this is going to be our finale for season 1. We will pick up with season 2 very shortly. But we wanted to take this time to, first of all, say thank you to our friends and family and followers for following us and supporting us for an amazing season. We had definitely hoped that this was not going to be happening in May, that this last episode would not be happening in May, but unfortunately it is, because as we all know, the New York Rangers did lose to the New Jersey Devils in Game 7 of round 1 of the playoffs. We will get into some of that in a little bit. But yeah, I think we wanted to wait a few days. I think there were some emotions running strong. And I've been listening to, all the podcasts, pretty much reading anything I get my hands on. And I'll tell you, anybody who knows me knows I listen to two kinds of podcasts. I listen to New York Rangers podcasts and I listen to plane crash podcasts. And somehow the New York Rangers podcasts have been more depressing than my plane crash podcasts. Thankfully, I will say we had the good fortune of being with friends for Game 6. So we got to celebrate a really nice win. Yeah. And then Christine and I were able to drown our sorrows together. At least we were together in person when they lost Game 7.
And ice cream makes us feel better.
Ice cream did make us feel better. Yeah. So, with emotions running strong, I just want to ask, you ladies, obviously, Sarah, I know that you've been following other teams this year, and totally want to hear what's going on with that. But just any reactions, any thoughts, where are your guys' heads at today?
She's like, join the club.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. There was part of me that's like, was this our fault because we made fun of Sarah for losing those games when we were in New York?
Have you seen those memes where they're all rising to heaven and it's like we're just joining the crowd?
I'm like sitting here waiting for you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I just she's really at home going.
Well, when they lost, I was like, because of the way they lost, I was like, oh, and it's not that they didn't show up. It was just a terrible ending to the season, and I felt bad. I did, because I'm like, you guys just watch, like there's no more of this. We now have to wait till September.
It's a long wait.
And I felt bad. I felt bad, and then so I was watching a bit of the game, but I went back through the highlights just to see if I could see anything in particular, and I couldn't. I just thought that they did the New Jersey did their homework. It was almost like, pardon the term, it's kind of like a mind fuck. I think the Rangers showed up to play one game, but I also think the Devils came ready to play the Rangers game in a way that I just think New York wasn't expecting. And they were just really lost, I think, at every turn. They just weren't prepared. But with that aside, they had a great season. I'm sad to see all the rumors about Gallant, to be honest. He's not my favorite, but I thought he did well, and I think he really turned it around. I'm actually surprised, just because, as Christine indicated, I think a few episodes ago, he came from Vegas, and Vegas isn't that old, so he hasn't been there a long time.
Well, there was the rumors going around with this argument that they had, him and Jury, which is Game 4. So if you go back to that game, yeah, I think we were all yelling at him. He just doesn't know it, right? Yeah. We all argued with him because we won the first two. Again, Game 3, I have to say, it was just dead even anyone's game, unfortunately. So I think anybody, including Jury, mostly Jury, I think, was expecting we're gonna have to take this one home, and when we didn't. So I don't know why he's drumming up all this drama in articles, because it sounded like it would be heated too. The same article that I was reading about that argument also indicated that there's really there's not looking like they're going to get rid of him. So that's good. Even though we had quick rumors of who would be interested. Everybody wants to be on the Rangers. It's like, so I get that. But right now, it was cute. If you saw his interview too, he's like, why am I having to answer these questions? This is ridiculous. So he doesn't seem concerned. And again, those same articles, even though they're, kind of drawn you in with this argument thing, they're also ending the articles with, it doesn't look like there's going to be a change for him. The team is another story, So I think I was saying that, like, I responded to someone, like, I think the more, like, what depresses me more isn't that we lost, is that things are going to be the same, because there's always change. And right now we don't know what that is. People are all drumming it up because now they're like salary talking and trade, they're already starting. So it doesn't mean anything, but still change is going to happen. So like that, I think right now that's the depressing part, is we're in this like little weird bubble, limbo area, and we're just going to be waiting for that to happen. So.
I think change, I think, though, is going to have to be necessary. And it's not that... It's not that like Gallant hasn't had success, for all intents and purposes. If you look at the last 2 years with the Rangers, he has had what you could define as success. But I think it was the way in which they lost the last 4 games of this playoff series that were just so mind-bogglingly strange. And I know Jeffrey touched on this in Mind Your Pucking Business, and Christine, you and I talked about what he was talking about how one of 2 things happened. It was he either couldn't keep up, and Sarah, you were saying the Devils did their homework. He couldn't keep up with the changes that they made and adapt on the fly, or he lost control of the locker room. And to me, it seems like the latter happened, because there was such a shift. It was just so weird to see the team that played those first 2 games was not the team that turned up in games 3, 4, and 7. And it was so shocking and so strange. And they just did not look excited to be there. They didn't look happy to be there. And that part is so confusing, because it feels like there's something very amiss or very dysfunctional going on behind the scenes. Whatever that is, I don't know, obviously there's probably people pointing fingers in every direction, but there has to be some kind of change, because that can't happen again. That would be so disappointing for the fans who have come in day after day, week after week, year after year supporting this team, if they can't see the forest through the trees.
So have you seen some of the interviews? Okay, so here's every interview. Here's every interview after a hockey game from a guy. Whatever question they're asked, here's their response. Well, I think I can probably do better. And, and so we really tried. And so they're all the same monotone, low, sweet, soft voice. Mika's usually the one that's got that, but I've been watching all of them. And it's kind of interesting. I think Kreider took a lot of responsibility, in his interview. He's like, I should have stepped up more. I didn't do what I should have done. They're kind of reflecting and owning responsibility of their mistakes and errors. And even Panarin is like, I didn't do what I should have done. And so it's out. Again, I don't know if it's because we're doing this project in this podcast that I'm paying attention more, and I've never seen these, or if this is really truly just a team that we're seeing out of other ones that really kind of own up. I mean, they're stepping out in front of media, and they're like kind of taking and owning their own responsibility and their faults. And sometimes they don't even know how to answer it or how to fix it, but they just know that it's something that they have to work on. And so, and it was really cute, because like Kako was like, I don't know how to answer that question. Go ask somebody else. And it was super cute. So those are the kind of things that are coming out. So there's going to be change, because in the area, we were talking to Liz about like free agents. And so some of the things I saw are like, generally people want to stay, but some of them are going to be testing the open market. So we're going to see how that goes. The other interesting thing is how, now I'm really like, look, I was an anti-Kane person from the beginning, right? And here we go. And we have to get Kane. We got Kane. Everyone bitched and moaned that he wasn't being Kane. Where is the Kane? We got him. What did he do? And now he's saying that he's just been injured the whole time. So
but we knew he was going to say that. That was but if not a surprise.
Looking at potentially getting surgery, but if we're getting him injured, like what? Like that was a whole now why thing. But who cares at this point? Because it's something that happened. I just like, what's the rush to get somebody who's injured and then really acted like he performed as if he was injured. So and if he's the other thing, he's going to go and get surgery. He's out, for however much time. And maybe indefinitely, depending on what the surgery is, as we've seen before in the past. So, that was a whole bust, in my opinion. But
yeah, there was so much. There were so many things. There were so many things that just sort of broke down for the Rangers in the last couple of games. And I think emotions are very raw right now. And I did see a lot of, Christine, what you were talking about those, like the interviews and, Kreider blaming a lot of it on himself. I actually think he didn't have a horrible playoff. He was better than most. He had a couple of just really lazy plays in that last game, but
he broke the record.
He did. Yeah, he did.
We can't ignore the good things that did happen. We just enjoyed the roller coaster that is our life with the Rangers as fans, like in our face, like harsh.
Absolutely. And now there's part of me that is feeling really grateful for being alive in 1994. They say that youth is wasted on the young, but at least we had that. We will always have that. But I hate even thinking that. I hate even thinking like, okay, now we have to regroup and do this all again, because this is, ultimately an exhausting sport. And we want to see the guys that we really care about, especially the ones who are getting older, like Kreider, be able to win a cup. And it would be remiss of us to not talk about this team leaving their amazing goaltender Igor out to absolutely dry. You could see he was getting frustrated as the series went on. He did everything that he could, other than standing on his head, which he probably did at some point, to try to keep this team in it. And he was phenomenal. If you look to, what are the best parts of the Rangers in this series, it was Igor, hands down.
It was.
Yeah. And you could hear his name being chanted even in that last game. I heard that at the very end. So outstanding. He's still on contract.
Yeah,
right?
that I think that was the Devils fans.
Point out the score winners or
I realize that, but like I would also like to think that half of that building was like, the positive Ranger fans.
Yeah.
But he deserves the shout out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and just even putting there, props to the fans. I mean, watching to the fans, they stayed to the end. They did it. It was, it was sad to see the unsportsmanlike, cheering of the way they were doing it. I can't really remember what they were doing. They were chanting Igor at the end and something else, So instead of just being gracious because they won and they're moving on. So, and by the way, they're, hopefully they're going to lose tonight too. So, let's see how like this next round goes. But fans, I give credit to every single fan who sits to the end, win or lose. It's hard sometimes, especially in a playoff. So, and the good side is we are not the Bruins.
I was just thinking that.
I was just gonna say.
Let's just all go back to that moment.
If we're gonna talk,
I cheered as if it was my own Stanley Cup.
If we're gonna talk about Game 7s and teams losing and people sticking around, Patrice Bergeron shook every player's hand as they left the ice for Boston, which I thought was great. You could tell it's the end of an era. He's most likely done. Even I and I like Boston. I mean, they're not my team, but I like them. I like their playing style. I had a teary-eyed moment there. I was like, oh my God, it's like when Chara retired, it was the end of an era, if you will.
That everyone felt bad for him, but not for the rest of them.
Yeah, I know. I think I could hear you from LA in my house. As
I was like, oh my, that was really, and they were replaying it. Actually, what were those guys doing last night? Oh, I gotta hate Paul Bissonnette, but they were reenacting it, like the play, like last night with Henrik. So, and they had a great screen on was it Allmark? That was, they just had a great screen on him and it just went right in. And with the fans, like everyone just dropped to their seats.
You could hear a pin drop in there.
Oh my
God. It was silent, absolutely silent.
Because they were up and they were just watching that clock and ticking it down. And that, and honestly, in that moment, and this is why I'm glad we can analyze it as not the fans, because when you take a step back and you're looking at it in a different perspective or in a different light, it really truly is amazing. when you pull that goalie, and I think I put in our story that little graph of which I thought was great. It was like what happens when you pull, you're like, my anxiety goes up. I watch the clock. I sweat because you really want those moments where it's going to work. And typically it works against us, which is the stressful part because you're looking at it on both ways too. So that was fantastic. And the fact that they scored an OT, that was amazing. That was one. I think that right now it's just the highlight. Unfortunately, there's a curse, right? There's a curse on the President's Trophy and them going down. So maybe we learn not to go for first. So maybe all these people that are crying, through the whole season next year, we know how to stop them, So we don't want the curse. We just want to come in second or third.
Sorry, Liz. I do have to say at ESPN, I think all through those last moments of that game, they managed to zoom in on the least attractive fans. This is so terrible of me to say, but all the close-ups we got here, I'm like, why did they pick these people? It was not complimentary.
Were they eating food at the same time?
Yeah, always.
That may have made it better, but they weren't. Anyways, maybe it's like Kaplan's family. I have no idea.
That's hilarious. So we made it. There's 8 teams left.
Yeah, and the Panthers are now up 2-0 against Toronto, which I mean, everything is strange. I feel like maybe this playoff started with Mercury in retrograde or something because nothing is going according to anybody's plan. If anyone still has a bracket that is correct, please let us know. We would love to hear from you.
Shout that out.
Because
I'll put a question out for that. I'm like, mine's like, I got 30 points out of 18,000. I got nothing.
Not even close.
I know I'm way off.
I think everybody got ruined after
the Leafs
after
have
the
an injury
Panthers won.
too. Who's their player? They got a player out with a concussion right now too, so they're going to be down a man tomorrow. I didn't watch the first games because they were on ESPN and I don't have it. But the next games, and what's interesting too is now they're on TBS and TNT through the whole weekend. So what's trumping hockey, on the channel? So during the summer, we can go back to that garbage. So although I'm not complaining because I can see the games. So I did watch these games last night. So, the Leafs kind of had the same thing. They kind of came out ahead 2 goals and then they lost the lead really quick and they died a quick death. And then you have this, it's a great series, the Dallas Seattle game, because, with Seattle taking game 1 and really kind of hanging in there, they got Pavelski and he's scoring he's already scored 6. He scored 4 goals in the first game. It was crazy. And they still lost. So, so those, right now, and then the other thing that we were kind of putting out there that I loved hearing is that, out of the 8 teams that are left, we're talking, none of these teams have won in at least a minimum of 17 years. The Canes and the Devils, being the most current, and then one of those is going to go out. But 3 of them have never won a Stanley Cup. So it's Panthers, Vegas, and Seattle. So, who do you root for? Who do you want? Who do you want? If we could create a little mini bracket now. What would you want to see? I mean, I'm with Seattle just because they're kind of cool and got cool colors and they're cracking. Because why not? Yeah.
I'd be honest. I'm not feeling any of these teams. I think maybe if I had to choose, it would be Seattle. I'm still in the, and we can get into this in a little bit, but in terms of stages of grief, I think I'm still in anger stage, so I'm not quite ready to move on.
I do think I'd take Florida. I'm analyzing them. They show up. They're playing really well. It's hockey first. It's the game first. It's puck first. It's not the physical elements on the ice. It's not, having issues with other players. They're really showing up and playing. And
no, there's some dirty things in there, but they are good.
They have Kachuk. They'll always be dirty.
I know.
Yeah, but I think they really want it, and not that I don't see the other 2 teams that you mentioned doing that, but their style's a little different.
I just want them. Actually, I have to watch the Devils game to see. So right now, I mean, I honestly, my gut's kind of saying Panthers might be the most likely. So
Yeah, at this point, anybody but the Devils, I think I would be.
I know.
I would be
so I did
thrilled
that
with
poll.
literally anyone.
I did that poll, which is great. So we had a lot of people chiming in on it, which was fantastic. So I really like.
Gaza saying, "I want the Oilers to win. I have too many friends who are Oilers fans." I would agree. I would agree with that. There's some good Oilers fans out there. They've been holding on for a long time. It would be cool to see to see the cup go back there.
So with the Oilers, there is Wait, I have to catch up on the news too. Is Snoop looking to buy into the Oilers, or is he looking to
Ottawa?
Oh, it's Ottawa.
I heard the rumor that he was gonna try and outbid Ryan Reynolds for the Sens, but I honestly think it's just a ploy.
And I also heard that they're thinking of moving Ottawa to Atlanta.
Yes. Yeah, I heard that too.
Oh yeah, that's what because they're already looking at purchasing a place. They're looking to bid, but I thought they might have been even collaborating to create an ownership for stuff. Because
that'd be cool.
So more to come on that one, which that is worth kind of looking more into, following it, because Ryan Reynolds, they're still reeling over the win of their own team that they have bought, so which was victorious too. The other thing before it, we don't want to lose it, but right now the Hartford Wolfpack are on a good run.
Yeah, they are.
So we still have a little nudge tie-in, to
and don't forget the Oilers and the Rangers are secretly, in my conspiracy theory brain, the same team. So if the Oilers win and the Wolfpack win, that's basically like a Rangers Stanley Cup victory. So
that would work. And there was a question that came out, like when we lost in the first round, were they able to send down the people that they called up to put, and they, to be able to go back there and play? And I think I saw that they were, so they were able to do that.
It's interesting.
So they called up, I don't know who they called. Did they call up Zach Jones? They called up a few people, and they got to send them back down to play.
So they can't send Panarin back down to get a little extra skating in.
They might send them a little skating school, and it's called Don't Spin School. Because right now it's and then the first Devils game against the Canes, they ended up pulling Schmidt, which somebody was like, "What did I send you that thing?" It was like he Schmidt his pants.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I died when I saw that. And they pulled him. They took shots on him. They got a great score, and they pulled him. So now I kind of want to watch their strategy for kind of how they're all playing and seeing if there's the waves that we kind of witnessed, with other teams. I think we kind of saw a little bit of that, with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, they kind of had this great first period, and they kind of died. Yeah,
that's what they do.
Second, third.
And I don't think any of this was entirely unexpected either. I remember when we were talking earlier this season about who we'd want to face in the playoffs. I don't think anybody wanted to go up against the Devils, because the Devils, they're crafty and super annoying, and I feel like they're a little bit of the Achilles heel of the Rangers, and that totally showed.
It did. And one of it, and it just keeps putting us back into the square one when we start this season again, how I think out of all the divisions, our division, the Metropolitan, is the toughest one.
Absolutely.
If we have to keep these brackets, can't we just switch them up a little bit? I'm like, give us a fair chance on things. You really do, in my opinion, see Stanley Cup winning teams in our bracket, but because of the way these things go, man, we get, they're all getting knocked out, and then you're gonna have this Kraken just start climbing their way up, just like the Kings did in 2012, to win. You never know. So that was another poll that I did too, which I found very interesting, because Bettman came out and said, he was talking, and I guess they had considered changing the brackets up, and according to him, everybody was happy the way it was. And I'm like, who's happy? And we've been talking about it. We're not happy with it. And the interesting thing is, when I put the poll out, there was a lot of people looked at it, a lot of people that chimed in, and it was really like 60-40, really kind of close. So I was actually kind of surprised that 40% of people that responded really like to keep it this way, because they're fans of,
with those 40% living in the West, because I could totally understand and get behind that. How would you change it? Like, what would you like to see in an ideal scenario in Christine land when you're the commissioner of the NHL? What does the bracket look like? How do the playoffs work?
What it's worth, top plays the bottom, and just have it go that way, because you're really fighting. Why do we even have like those NHL standings when they don't matter? The only thing that matters is the first one, because you get a trophy, which is a curse. So nobody really wants that one. So why do we even have it when it doesn't matter? And I think it should matter, because that's where you're really going to get, especially if we're talking it's anybody's game, the playoffs are the playoffs, but you're really going to stand a chance for those top people, regardless of what division they're in, get a real chance to make it. And if you're looking at the whole season, the two top teams, let's say, are, Boston and who was next? Carolina was second. They will never meet. They'll never meet in the Stanley Cup. I mean, so I also think give everybody opportunity to meet in the Stanley Cup. I mean, I think that takes away really a flavor that we should have.
Yeah, and when it happens in baseball, it becomes super fun. Like when the Mets played the Yankees for the World Series, like that's cool. Like that's a thing that can happen in a certain kind of scenario. It would be fun to be able to see that. Maybe it's the scheduling, but there's airplanes, there's ways to schedule this that would make it more feasible, that if a West Coast team played an East Coast team, they could still manage to get from place to place to place. I don't think that's the issue. So I don't think there's anything stopping real progress getting made on that front, other than people who don't want any change.
So logistically, that's a problem, because since we only play the East and West 2 times, then you have this unfair kind of thing. So you can't really even it out with so many teams. So,
and do you think revenue plays into this at all? Like advertising revenue, does that play into any of this decision? That feels like a stretch, but it's Bettman. He's capable of anything.
I mean, more games are better, and maybe if you do like a detailed analysis of like who's buying ads on what, maybe they like trying to specialize in local markets. Maybe there is something behind that. Who knows? I
mean, it's Friday afternoon and it's Cinco de Mayo. That's way beyond my purview at the moment. But like, I'm just thinking from a monetization perspective.
We should do this regroup after a couple of tequilas.
I know we're so much better when we're influenced.
Yes. But just thinking the way someone should be thinking from a revenue perspective, not just the standings and the geographical locations.
I just wonder, like, what if they did change it to sort of like a baseball format? So instead of like the 2 conferences, there's 3, and the teams are just divided. I mean, now baseball's changed a lot, and I don't know if anybody who's listening to us now is also a baseball fan, but there've been a lot of changes to baseball rules and the way that the leagues have worked. Now, essentially, there still is an American League and a National League, but they have the same rules now. They got rid of they added the designated hitter. So now everyone's basically the same. Every team in baseball now plays every other team at least once during the season. That is, I think, new this year. I think it's new this year. It might have been last year. Can't remember. And also the first round for baseball is best of 5. And I've always wondered if in hockey, I love lots of hockey. Give me more hockey. It's great. But it's so exhausting for teams to continuously play 7-7-7 that I just wonder if shortening a little bit more on the front end might benefit the teams later on. Maybe the playoffs aren't 6 weeks. Maybe they're 4 weeks. Maybe it's just a little bit buzzier.
They're already mucking it up as it is. It's like tonight there's 2 games, tomorrow there's 3, and then on Sunday there's 1.
And on Monday, was it Sunday or Monday when I was looking to see when Edmonton started? It must have been Monday because there's a whole thing here. Edmonton was supposed to start today and play Sunday, and people had already started buying tickets, and then they switched it to Wednesday start and tomorrow now. But yeah, it's like been a whole thing. Like, can you imagine being one of those people who just like locked in all their Vegas stuff and then had to had to shift.
Yeah, and then and during the first round, I think the Kings had like 4 days off. So like that, there's momentum, and there is something about the exhaustion that plays into it because it's where they're getting pushed to do it. I think that's part of getting to each level, especially when you're doing a game 7 and you're playing someone who maybe swept the other team and they're getting all the rest, and you got to turn around and get on a flight, and you're going to be playing for your lives, like in 2 days,
and it's tough. It's tough for teams that also have basketball teams sharing the same arena, also in the playoffs right now. So that definitely impacts scheduling.
So sorry, go ahead, Christine.
So just real quick, just one of the things that to kind of focus on later too, as we go, is the Kings. It was here in LA, but in New York is with that and this quick change of the ice and the floors, did that have an impact, on the quality of the surface? Because we were talking, again with Andrew about that, where he already said that the Ranger ice is kind of crappy anyway. So, and then I did see some talk about that. I haven't heard anything locally with the Kings, but does that play into it as well? Especially when you're playing arenas where there really is nobody else, playing there. So, that's a curious thing to kind of follow. And the reason why basketball and in hockey doesn't need to happen exactly the same time. Can someone figure that out?
So what?
Wait, Sarah had something.
Sorry, I was just going to ask that if we see a new, soon we should be seeing a new NHL commissioner come in. Bettman's getting up there. We see a younger one come in.
When?
Yeah,
Did you see him? Did you see him on that? When I put that up there, he didn't look well.
Well, he didn't look well.
He hasn't looked well for a while.
Before they announced the Calgary Arena, was it the Rangers game I was at? He was in town he did a bit in the intermission talking about the new possible arena at that point. So it was February. He looked awful. Anyways, I don't want to speculate on his health, but
he was shaking a lot. So it was a curious thing too.
But when we get a new commissioner and, hopefully that person is younger, I'm thinking like Shanahan, maybe Messier, someone who's well-liked.
He's not coaching the Rangers next year, which would be nice.
Everybody voted for him already.
But give him a better position like commissioner. They need a friendly face. Like Bettman's so hated. Sorry, but it's true. But, you get a new commissioner. Do they make changes like that we are talking about?
Well, I wish that commissioner somehow would listen to fans at times too, so I don't know who they're, conversing with. So when Bettman was like, yeah, we're all happy with it, nothing's going to change anytime soon. I'm like, who are you happy with? The 4 other guys you're having lunch with? Yeah. You're
the old men's club.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just like the commission that reviews, review suspensions, they're all thugs. So it's like, that makes no sense. Yeah.
Nope.
So yeah.
So let me ask you, ladies, if you were commissioner next year, what changes are you making? What changes are you making for the league?
Broadcast rights in the US for sure. One deal, ESPN, here you go.
So we can see
or
it.
NHL Plus or something that we can subscribe to and get every game, every single game,
absolutely,
including playoffs.
Yeah, and NHL Plus would love to see in Canada we have DAZN. I don't know if you guys have that in the States, but all our NFL coverage is on there. If you purely stream like I do, and it has shoulder content, so documentaries, little player bits, all the things. Be great to have that on NHL Plus. If you were to do the ESPN, like I have a conspiracy theory on, you can just grow the game from a younger perspective with Disney and their brands.
With cartoons, more. So Sarah, you're saying more cartoon games,
more big city games.
That's your
maybe 3 times a year. The classic, the Heritage Classic. Maybe you do I don't know. You pick them, but sure, why not? And then you can buy their merch at Disney.
I would add so who wants to be a hockey player kind of reality television scenario to the beginning of the season. So you make it really, you make a big splash. But I'm joking about that specifically, but it would be cool if there was a little bit more about, some of the younger guys. There's more information. You don't have to go scouring to the depths of YouTube to find out information about, who are the new guys coming up? What does training look like? really make it accessible for fans. I think that could be really fun in the same way that baseball does, spring training. Make that really accessible. Spring training is a thing all on its own. It's super fun. It has a following. It's for the most part completely televised. So there's a lot of access to the teams as they're getting ready for the season, and it's fun.
And if you want to expand it, as we've learned this season too, if you want to expand your audience into hockey, add in these other things. I can't watch the Hartford Wolfpack. I can't watch them. So I'm just listening, seeing what's happening on Instagram. The women's hockey, the tours that they did and things, I can't watch those either. I don't know where they are. And then even some of the other AHL games. So when Matthew was on, when we asked Matthew who, what player he liked, he referenced, someone in the AHL that was up and coming. And, and the kids know how to pirate the stuff, but it would really be nice to have more of a dedicated kind of channel or space to watch us, but, and to expand it. If people are able to watch the AHL where, you have when the season starts again and we have our pre-games there, then you're going to see Othman come up and he's going to be fantastic and he's going to win. Everyone's going to want him up and he's like 17 and they're going to send him back down. So, but let's follow him. I mean, that's what was happening in the beginning, with him. So that would be probably the priority, to do, if you had the ability to change it, if I had the ability to change it, if we together did, we would rule the world, the NHL world.
Absolutely. And anybody who's listening, if you guys have any fun thoughts or ideas, if you were commissioner next year, what you'd be doing, we'd love to hear from you. I also want more Mark Messier jackets. Did you see the jacket that he wore for Game 7? The blinged out Ranger. It was like a sport jacket.
Fantastic.
It was completely sequined. Rangers colors. Rangers. I mean,
I'm
not gonna lie. I think it would be cool if more teams had a little bit more.
If he auctioned that off, I don't know what's going to happen. That was in rebuttal to, what's his face's robe, devil robe, and just Subban. So, and that's actually been pretty funny watching them commentate because Subban's just a tool. So, and I think Mark's kind of putting him in his place, like when he say and he just does it with expressions. So sometimes, and when someone captures it, it's hilarious. So. Again, that's the other problem with watching these playoffs. We're stuck with, you got Henrik on one side of the table and you got Paul Bissonnette on the other. You're like, I'm just gonna look on this side and just stop talking over here. So, and then the other channel, you got Messier and Subban. I'm like, you can't. They're both complete opposites. So
it's so funny because PK is really well liked here as a host. So I find that funny as to hear that feedback. We love him. There's a lot of people that like him here. It's weird. Different.
Lily has said, I love the crazy fits some of the guys pull off. More players should have fun with their fits like Mark does. I definitely, and one of the things I've personally really liked, and this is just me being a girl, is how all the players always turn up dressed really well, and then someone always takes pictures of them arriving at the arena. It is super hot, and most of them are good dressers. I will call out Panarin as still being the worst dressed on the Ranger team. If you look at any pictures of the team together when they're not in uniform or practicing, Panarin is always wearing pants that are too big for him, a jacket that looks like he borrowed it from his dad because it doesn't fit right. Mika, Kreider, they all have their acts together. Someone needs to give him, in addition to some playoff hockey lessons, he needs to make over the summer. That really needs to happen.
That's weird.
It's funny.
Do you see that this is such a dude competition amongst all the players? That's what I see, because I think secretly they're competing against not only each other within the team, but against other teams too, because they know they're going to get recognized and put their photos on there and stuff. And I always used to say, if you go to a game, I could spot a hockey player a mile away because they wear well before they used
the guys with the helmets and the sticks and the knife shoes.
There's another ones on the knife shoes. Yeah, that's how I learned.
I think that's one of my favorite things from this year.
The ones that we're playing, kind of have these generic suits. And the funniest thing is you can always tell they didn't know how to really wear them, because these are guys that are really most comfortable in those helmets and gear. And so they walk around. So I could just know that they were hockey players from a mile down the hallway. And they've now literally, like, yeah, you're right, kind of upped their fashion trend. And I think they're so competing with everybody else. I mean, I wonder if they have their own little award show, like behind the scenes.
But I mean, Panarin's
We'll
in
have
New
one
York.
for them.
Panarin's in New York. There's got to be like a Hugo Boss or somebody that can just come in and like sponsor him, and he can be the face of them, and then he can dress nice. Like,
well, Henrik kind of started that because he's always has his own line of clothing. Yeah.
But by the way, I've been meaning to tell you, did you see that there's a Henrik documentary that's coming out?
Yes.
That looks cool. We should do a little screening. We should do a screening of that. It's premiering at Tribeca. I just read about this. Yeah, we should do a screening and then do some commentary.
And yeah, so that's coming out. He's started a podcast as well. So that's fun to kind of listen to. And that's gonna, like, I think the advertiser was like, I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm like, don't make me cry.
Yeah. There have been a couple of moments that have,
I cried when he was traded. That day, it was a Friday. And my memory comes up every once in a while, so it reminds me. And I'm like, I just remember I cried, just like my child cried out in the middle of a soccer field when Frolov was traded to the Rangers.
Didn't he not want to go to school when Quick got traded?
He didn't. Remember, he told us.
That was also like this year.
It was a month ago.
23.
He's like, I didn't go to school. I'm like, great.
Hockey is emotional, and I think you said it, Christine. Like, this is the roller coaster of being a Rangers fan, and Sarah, I know you know the roller coaster well from being a Penguins fan. I mean, there's been a lot of roller coasters this year for teams that I don't think we were expecting to be, sharing that ride with.
Yeah, part of the beauty of being a true kind of hockey fan is we have to expect the unexpected, because really that's what these stories are all about. And to not dissect it so much, because, it's, as we've learned, it's our perspective, like we've had a perspective and we've learned about other people's perspective, and where we see fault just could have been that everyone else played so well, but we're only seeing that one part. Just like I was saying, like every time I saw Panarin go in the zone and stop at the circle, could I rewatch it and see that if there was a reason, because he kept doing that. But was his view blocked so he couldn't really take the shot, or did he have a plan? Again, that maybe that was a coaching thing. Maybe it's like get in there and then pass it over. So those kind of things, but all we see is the one little aspect of it, which we don't know, because we're not on that level of the ice. We're not in his head. We don't know what they talked about. There's so many other factors. So all we can really do is enjoy it, and all the good and the bad. My profile picture was there can be only one, and we're not going to be the only disappointed people. So
at least we're not Boston.
Yeah, true.
That has given me a lot of comfort.
What do you find is more like, what was more disappointing last year when we lost to Florida, like in Tampa Bay, or when we were third? We basically cut out third, right? To at least, and again, the other thing too is I'm always like, at least we're not first. So we technically were the last ones to go out in the first round. So like, which one do you think was harder? Like
by far,
round, like in 7, or going out in that that semifinal round?
1,000,000% this year was harder.
Isn't that crazy?
Hands down, because last year, I don't think anyone expected the Rangers to have that deeper run anyway. So it was like playing with house money. The fact that we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals was freaking amazing. It was not super expected. So, and I could kind of give them a little bit of a pass, because by the time they started playing that, they were already exhausted from winning 2 previous rounds.
Crazy.
So by far, and they tried. Like I don't. This year, and I don't want to get back into this because it's going to make my blood pressure rise, but it just felt like they stopped playing. And I know, there's a lot that kind of goes around that, but just the way that the lack of showing up that happened in the last few games of this series just made this one so much worse for me.
Yeah, so it's that expectation, because last year you could almost sense that they they never got that far. They were, again, a little bit younger. They were a year younger. And they kind of had that, I want to say deer in headlights, but they were like, oh, this is great. This is great. But then they got owned, by this more experienced team. And I think for me, I'm always like, they should come out and they should have learned from that and had more drive. And that's where I think we get disappointed is, even though we saw 3 spectacular games and an overtime, game, we did see 3 games where it was the opposite, and it's like, how do you go from one extreme to another 2 days apart? And what caused that? So, it is what it is. And the other teams are doing it too. So,
Oh yeah. Like I empathize with what you're saying. Like Pittsburgh, as I said, I think most of the season didn't show up. They went through these little bouts of like, where are you? Where's the team that, I know you can be? Obviously other things were happening as we've learned since the regular season ended, but I know exactly what you're saying when you said your team didn't show up and they stopped playing. Yeah, that happened to me too. And obviously there'll be some changes made. I don't know what changes New York's going to make. We'll see here, but I can empathize with that feeling.
We really shouldn't have made Sarah sleep outside. We were in New York. That was definitely, this has all been our fault.
In the snow, so they came back and bit us.
We're so sorry. Oh, and the time we scored 6 goals against you, we should have just.
Where we didn't show up at all. Yeah.
We shouldn't have gloated the way that we did.
Hey, but we lost to the Ducks, so I'm like, what are you going to say about that? I'm like, I think 3 teams lost to the Ducks, and we were one of them twice. I think.
Well, on that note, before we wrap this up, I have an impassioned plea to whoever is writing the Craig Benajad fan fiction. I'm desperate. I really need a good end of the season recap. You haven't posted something in a couple of days. I am praying that you're working on something, because their whole little flirt after game 6 when they were answering questions for each other, that is already reflected in a fanfic. So this writer is very prolific and has already posted one. We just need I need a good one to wrap up the season, make me feel better.
So we have
please.
Awards coming up too. So so Lily's petition to have the best dressed.
Yes. So we will do our Double D-Fense awards as well. We will be with you all summer long. So please keep listening. We have some fun stuff planned, some really interesting conversations to keep your minds occupied while we wait for, first the Stanley Cup to finish up, and then all through the off season, so we can be ready to go again and win it all in 24. Saying it here right now. I'm going to do my Messier guarantee. Win it all in 24.
We're each at different levels of our grief phases. So
yes,
I think. Wait, Sarah, you had acceptance yet?
So here are the stages.
I had acceptance before the season was over. I was just
she's gone through all of them.
Yeah.
So there's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I think I'm between bargaining and depression right now, Christine. I thought last week you might have still been in denial because you're like, they played so well. I understand, they played so well. No, they didn't.
I don't really have an anger phase. I'm more into, I'm kind of in that weird limbo thing of a year from now is really far away. It's just a long way to wait. It's going to take forever. So that's some stage of grief, and they're saying so. And I'm watching everybody else go through it. I'm kind of in pre-acceptance.
But can I ask?
I will be there maybe next week.
Did you ladies both shower and shave on Tuesday?
Oh, after they lost? 100%.
There we go.
Oh, I came over. I wore the same pants, and I think I was telling myself I didn't wash my hair or anything, so I definitely needed to do that when I got home.
Yeah, no, it's time to get focused.
We're
gonna train hard in this
rally hat.
offseason.
I had Rangers underwear on, and I was like, I gotta get these off. So Liz is tweeting I got the rally hat on. Chrissy's taking off the underwear. What else?
We did everything we could. We will be training in the off season as well to be better fans. And then it's an interesting question. What can we do? What can we do during the off season so that we can get better at cheering our team on and supporting them in a healthy, productive way? I'm very open to suggestions on that.
We need glow earrings so that they can see us from the ice.
Yes.
So, maybe some light up shirts, while everyone's yelling Igor, or we can just flash it.
That works on so
We
many
actually keep
levels.
those ideas off the air because those are marketable.
Sarah, take off your shirt.
That will never get old.
That will never get old.
Oh my God. No.
We'll have to post a couple of things
on the road in
Yeah.
23, 24.
And I'm sure
right?
one of the things I'm looking forward to most next season is I'm sure we will, once we figure out when the Rangers and Penguins will be playing again, we should definitely make a trip. Yeah. Maybe it'll be New York. Maybe it'll be Pittsburgh. That could be exciting.
Can Pittsburgh handle us? I don't know.
I actually don't know. I don't know
either.
Seeing Sarah in New York was still one of my favorite things of all time. This is Sarah in New York. There's an Irish pub there. There's an Irish pub there. Wait, how many Irish pubs are there in the city?
It's like every 2 feet. Yeah, it's amazing.
Or my favorite one when we scored and you have the camera panning and all of a sudden it went down to Sarah and she's just like chugging her drink. And
ESPN showed someone, it was right after the Devils had scored again. It was the same thing. I even pointed at the screen. I'm like, that's Sarah.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Just like downing their drink.
I did see that because I also thought, I'm like, oh, is that a move that like we all just make when our teams aren't winning?
Yes.
Yeah, I do love New York. I would go back again in a heartbeat. I'm down for that. If that's going to be our trip, that's our trip.
It'll be interesting to see when the schedule comes out if they've now scheduled the same thing like 3 games in a row within like a 2-day period.
It doesn't get better. So it'll be curious thing that's going to be coming out soon enough as we get like through the next couple weeks of these teams. So that'll be a curious thing. It'd be nice to kind of hit Canada, use my passport to hit a game. So that'll be fun too. Well, during the summer, it'd be nice to plan a Canadian game, the New York Calgary game, and then a new stadium, game, like where we want to go.
That's sorry, I was going to say way to Calgary's new stadium, but any new stadium would be great to visit. But Calgary is supposed to have a new stadium for 2027. We missed highlighting that with all our excitement last week.
Between the 3 of us, we covered quite a few.
We did.
Places. Not that I want to go to a Devils game, but I haven't been there. So like I covered both New York, Long Island, and
we got to Vegas.
Yep, Vegas and
LA.
I
made it to San Jose. Yeah.
I went to Edmonton and
5.
Calgary. Yep. Edmonton and Calgary. Yeah.
All right. So we hit 7. We had 7 places this year. So that'll be a fun kind of adventure to kind of see, what's feasible for us to do. It'd be nice to kind of hit up Seattle too, because I hear that place is pretty fun.
Yeah, that would be a great. Hopefully if they don't win, maybe the tickets will be reasonably priced this year, because last year I did look at prices for tickets in Seattle and they were off the wall expensive. But I think that might have just been for like the first year. It was more expensive in Seattle than it was in Vegas.
Maybe we should
by like a significant amount.
Should we find a team that's like really cheap, like Arizona?
Ooh, yes, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
That 5,000 seat
tickets
arena
outside, like
Mullet Arena,
like the rain games, like how they give free tickets sometimes, like just like when you get in some of these things.
I hear Nashville is great as well. Sorry.
Yes, we should definitely, absolutely. That would be fun.
So we made it technically through the end of our first season. We will continue on in our first postseason. with other fun, amazing things. We'll keep an eye on each of the rounds and how we're doing, and we'll just keep doing this. It's been a really fun and amazing and exciting first fun hockey year. So it's only going to get better.
Only going to get better from here.
Yay!
Plus, it gives us a chance to save up for start recycling, start saving your change so that we can afford to go to a playoff game next year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the key. Go fund me, please.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Go fund
Now we might make it so that we can pick one of us to go.
Yeah, we'll draw straws. That'll be fun. It'll be like Hunger Games. All right, ladies, thank you for everything. Stay tuned for a lot more.
Cheers,
We have a
you
lot more
guys.
coming. Cheers. Let's go
Cheers.
Rangers.
Let's
Cheers.
go Rangers. Let's
Go
go
Penguins.
Double D-Fense.